What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Golf 360 podcast. I'm the host, Pete Popovich. So you may be asking yourself, what is Golf 360? And Golf 360 is a show that was designed to introduce you to people associated with the game of golf to help you improve not only at your game, but also your life. Almost all of our guests are from within the industry in some way, shape, or form, but some of the guests we have are from outside the industry, and it mainly revolves around the business world with a few others scattered in here and there. Now, all of the guests that we have a few things in common. One, they all were highly successful and accomplished in their field. Two, each has something to pass along that will help you in your game and your life. And three, they were all more than willing to give back by passing along the things that they use to help them in their career, and even some of the mistakes that they made so that others don't make them in their journey. So I hope you find listening to them as enjoyable as I did interviewing them, and that each and every one of you benefits from the information that they so willingly and graciously pass along. Hey everybody, I want to give a big shout out to a new sponsor of the Golf 360 podcast, and that's Affinity Wealth Management Group. We all work exceptionally hard for our money, and none of us can afford to let that fall into the dark abyss of the big box financial service firms and their jack of all trades and master of none mantra, which basically means you become a number within a cookie cutter model that's also often accompanied by massive fees. Your future deserves more than average returns and little attention. At Affinity Wealth Management, they ensure that your financial goals receive highly individualized, tailored attention from experts, not just advisors, who are in the industry to be great and not average. As a client of Affinity Wealth, you receive a customized solution to your customized life, keeping in mind your family's financial situation, values, and risk tolerance. Call Affinity Wealth today for a no-cost consultation with one of their experts at 724-754-8200. Again, that's 724-754-8200. Or you can also check them out on the web at www.affinitywealthmg.com. That's AFFINITYWEALTHMG.com. This podcast is brought to you in part by Just Thrive Probiotic. You may be surprised to learn that your digestive system is the key to creating and maintaining the quality of your physical, mental, and emotional health, and it's one of the body's most essential systems. That's why the majority of nutritionists today highly recommend probiotics as an indispensable nutritional supplement. As a discriminating consumer, you've probably been searching for a probiotic that is proven, potent, and effective, and you found it. Just Thrive is your best choice for maintaining a healthy lifestyle. Just Thrive Probiotic captures the power of hundreds of thousands of years of nature's design with a specialized Bacillus strain formulation that guarantees survivability through the stomach and upper digestive system. Supports optimum gut health, digestive health, immune health, and delivers antioxidants. Great for adults, kids, and the whole family. Use promo code GOLF360 at www.thriveprobiotic.com for 10% off your order. Hello, all you hackers, golfers of all ages, skill levels, etc., and welcome to another edition of the Golf 360 podcast. Okay, today's show is a little bit different in that I do not have a world-renowned golf genius guest, so to speak, on the show. It's just me, myself, and I. And as many of you know, the podcast is long form, meaning that most of the episodes run 90 minutes, 2 hours plus. But I thought, let's break away from the norm a little bit. Let's do a short one. Keep it short and sweet. And this really evolves around a number of questions I get, people writing in, emailing me, and so on, with things about the podcast, constructive criticism, ideas, all sorts of things. So I thought, why not give a little inside view? And as the title says, from Genesis to today, what I've learned in the first year of having a podcast. So let me start by saying, or answering the question that I've gotten more often than not is, what is Golf 360 for, and why did I get into podcasting? And the answer to that is I've always been a very big podcast fan. I started listening to them probably about 6 or 7 years ago. and that started with the Tim Ferriss Show. I've been a very big fan of Tim Ferriss since I read his book, The 4-Hour Workweek, way back in about 2009 or 10. And I used to follow the world-renowned trainer, Charles Poliquin, quite a bit and read his material. And Charles had a video on his top 5 recommended books, and Tim's book, The 4-Hour Workweek, was one of those. I got it. I found it fascinating. In fact, after I got done reading it, I really could not sleep for 2 straight nights. My mind would not stop working on creative ideas to come up with and what I could do to that I would find interesting. And lo and behold, not long after that, I created the podcast. I follow Tim. I'm a big fan of his, as I said. And it did take me about 1.5 to 2 years from the time that I had the idea to start it until the time that I actually started it. And it wasn't so much a procrastination as it was I didn't have the time and didn't want to go through the learning curve of editing. And I gave it a lot of thought, obviously. And then one day ran into a friend of mine. We were sitting down talking, and I asked him, because he was in the web business, if he knew anybody that did editing. And he actually, in his prior career, was an editor for radio stations. So I said, great. We came up with the plan, and the rest is history, as they say. So, but even going back before that, as I listened to many of the Tim Ferriss Show episodes, and then later on, obviously, get into, as many of you have, the Joe Rogan Experience, I started thinking that I know or have access to a lot of people in the golfing world or individuals attached to it in some way, shape, or form that I think would be awesome guests, similar to how other podcasts have access to people in such things as investing or successful people, things of that nature. So why not bring that expertise that I had access to in my golfing career, either as a coach or when I was playing professionally, so that more people could listen to them, learn from them, and improve the same way that all these guests have helped so many others. So that was the genesis of it. That was my mindset behind it. The crazy thing is, I never thought, not one time did the financial part of it cross my mind. Now, to some of you who go off of business plans and things like that, that might be taboo. But this is one of the things that I've done in my life that financial reward or success in that capacity never, ever entered the equation. So it's been great. It's growing well. I've learned probably as much, if not more, than anybody being the host and getting to talk to all these people who've come on. I've really, really enjoyed it and really look forward to what the next year is going to bring, and some of the great guests that have expressed interest in coming on, that I've talked about coming on, and it's just getting the schedules worked out. If you think Golf 360 is only about golf, then there are 2 things happening and or not happening. And the first one is that I'm either not presenting the show, the guest, and or their information in a correct way, by the way that I either market the show, advertise it, outline the show itself, the questions I'm asking, and so on. Or the listener, i.e. you, is not listening closely enough to what the guests who come on the show are saying. Yes, Golf 360 is about finding and learning new ways to improve your game, and the guests are selected because they have expertise, experience, and a great understanding of the topic that we discussed during that show. But it is also about learning new ways to improve, both at your game and your life. And I'm a big believer in the fundamentals and principles that go into growing, learning, and improving apply to sport such as golf as well as it does your life. And it's often said that, at least in the golf industry, that golf is a metaphor for life. And if you want to know the type of person someone is, play a round of golf with them. Their frustrations will come out. Their ability to handle adversity will come out. All those things will illustrate the type of person that they are. Now, that's not to say that they can't learn, grow, and improve. Maybe they had a bad day, so forth. But this may be a difficult concept to grab or understand, because we all think at some point, if I just do one thing a little better, I'll make it to the next level. Or if I just tried a little harder, that will take me to the pinnacle and I will be happy. But when you listen to all of these phenomenally successful, highly, highly knowledgeable people who've been on the show, you quickly learn, or at least I hope you do, that it's about steady growth, accepting the challenge, about learning and improving, consistent progression. And in a world where we have become so accustomed to instant gratification, via social media, looking how many likes we get. We have the answers to most things in the palm of our hand, where we can find out the capital of a foreign country just by pressing a button and asking a question. Technology is a wonderful thing, but it also has some negatives and drawbacks to it. We can binge watch an entire season of a show in a few days that used to take weeks or months. We can have almost anything delivered to our door in 2 days. And it makes it much harder to remember that great things often take time. They take perseverance. They take dedication. And if you want to grow and improve and ultimately reach a goal. Like one of my guests, Dr. Brett McCabe, he's a phenomenal sports psychologist. As I've said many times on the show, he works with probably at least a dozen tour caliber players and I don't know how many more others in the college ranks and other places. But he always says, look, golf is hard. Life is hard. There are peaks and there are valleys. Some days will be harder than others. But if you stick to your plan, you maintain the course, and you always keep your eye on where you're going or where you want to get to or where you're going, i.e. your goal, you will get there. So become a better golfer or person by working on your weaknesses, as Preston Green, another guest, said. When I asked him the question, is it better to improve your strengths or your weaknesses? And his response without delay was, well, if you improve your weaknesses, you will improve, and your strengths might even get stronger. So venture out to learn something new and understand that everyone started somewhere and that they had to improve in some way, the same way that you will. You know, nobody was born great at their craft. Not Tiger Woods, not Michael Jordan, not Michael Phelps, not Steve Jobs. You can go on and on down the list. But what they all had was this insatiable desire to improve, and that will never, ever end. So take the leap of faith, jump into the deep end of the pool, and do the things you've thought of or dreamt about for a very long time. Forget the thousands of reasons that you shouldn't do something and go with the one reason to do it, and that's because you want to. Now, you might even discover the things you were afraid of weren't really anything to be afraid of at all once you get into it and you keep your mind set and continue going forward. And that putting yourself into something that is yours, no matter how challenging, can be one of the most gratifying and fulfilling things that you've ever done. If for whatever reason you do crash and burn, so what? As many guests have said, failure isn't only a good thing, but it is a necessary thing. And I've learned from my own experience, from talking to many of these highly successful people, that failure teaches us what we've done wrong and can provide us with the direction that we need. If not what to do, at a minimum, what not to do, at least for that situation or moment in time. Failure has always been a wonderful teacher. And if you don't believe me, ask yourself if you learn more from the successes you've had or from the failures and or setbacks. And at a bare minimum, when you do take the risk of doing something you really want to and it doesn't work out, you will have learned a great deal, not only about that field that you tried to take your shot at, but more importantly about yourself, and that will help you in the next thing. So as Tony Robbins always says, if you're not growing, you're dying. Now, for those of you who may be thinking, that's easy for you to say, you have a successful and extremely quickly growing podcast. Let me give you a few behind-the-scenes stories, and some of you who are diehard listeners, subscribers, have heard me talk about some of these before. So the very first podcast I did, I practiced with the equipment I got. I ran my girlfriend through numerous mock interviews to become familiar with the equipment. I did all the test runs, everything that you're supposed to do. And then even the night before the first interview, I had a friend come over, actually two of them, and we did more mock interviews. And it was good because I did find one button on the recorder that was in the wrong position that ended up being it would have shut off one of the microphones. So we got all that figured out. I felt much better. And then I go to do my first interview, who is with Mike Harmon. And Mike was selected for a particular reason. One, he is one of the best guys you'll ever meet. He's been in the golf business. He's an icon in the industry. He helped build and sustain and grow Secession Golf Club, which is known worldwide. And he is a phenomenal mentor to so many. And he's been a person I've looked to for advice and mentorship on a number of different things within the golf industry. And he's such a good person that I said, I got to have Mike on first. Anyway, long story short, Mike and I get an interview. Oh, and one last thing. Mike is a phenomenal talker. In fact, Eric Kennedy, one of his assistants, answered the phone one time, and the person on the other line said, I'm trying to reach Mike. And Eric said, well, Mike's on another call. Would you like me to take a message? And the fella said, well, I'll just wait. How long do you think it's going to be? And Eric responded by, well, if it's a wrong phone number, Mike will be on the phone for at least 20 minutes. So that'll give you an idea of Mike's ability to talk. And when it's your first podcast, you want somebody, at least in my opinion, that's going to do the majority of the talking. That alleviates the stress of you having to come up with content. So getting back to the story, I went over, met with Mike. We sat down in his office, got all the equipment set up, ran a couple test checks, sound checks, all that good stuff, everything checked out. And Mike said, well, look, if we're going to be sitting here for an hour, 2 hours or more, I'm going to have a glass of wine. He said, you want some wine? So I said, sure, Mike. We go into the grill. He fills my glass up. We go back to his office, sit down, hit record, and we start rolling. So we're into it for about an hour and a half. And I look down at the recorder, and it's all zeros, meaning it hasn't recorded a word that we've said. And needless to say, my heart drops from where it is in my chest to who knows how far down, a lump in my throat, and I'm sitting there looking at it, and Mike's he is rolling. And I look up at him, and he must see the look on my face, and he says, what's wrong? I said, it didn't record. He goes, well, what part? I said, none of it. And being the person he is, he sees the look on my face, and he knows it must have been flush red because I was so mad that I had gone through all the trouble, and this was my biggest fear of something going wrong, especially in the first podcast. And he says, hey, look, don't worry about it. I said, what do you mean, Mike, don't worry about it? That's an hour and a half of your life that you made for me that you can never get back. And I just basically ruined it by screwing up with my equipment somewhere on the tech side. And he said, look, it doesn't matter. We'll do it again next week. It'll be twice as good. Take it easy. Who cares? It's life. Shit happens. Let's go back on the back porch of Secession, which for some of you who've been there, you know how beautiful it is. And we'll have some more wine. So that's just an example of one of the many failures I've had with the podcast. Another one was with Martin Chuck. Martin, as many of you know, extremely successful. His schools sell out constantly. He has a Tour Striker brand. He's always coming up with another great training aid. Time is a very, very valuable resource to Martin, as it is to anybody. And the big mistake I made there, I had no idea that the cards that you record onto via your recorder obviously have only so much space. Well, I didn't know what the number at the bottom of the recorder meant. I later learned that it means that here's the amount of time you have left on this recording card. Well, Martin and I are rolling. We're probably into it for 30, 45 minutes. Everything's going good. I look at the recorder. It's recording. But then all of a sudden, we get into it about another 15 minutes later. I look down, and it's completely blank. And I had to stop Martin. I said, Martin, I don't know what happened, but this recording device isn't working. Later found out that, yeah, you actually have to make sure there's enough room on the whatever gigabyte storage card that you have. Martin laughed about it, as did Mike, and said, hey, look, no problem. Let's get together on this date. We'll continue. This has really been fun. Let's go forward with it. And just one last example, and this was recently. Now, I've been doing this for a year, a little over a year, and reached out to Eric Cagorno. Great teacher, got a phenomenal YouTube and social media and website. I highly recommend you follow him. But I reached out to Eric. We set a date. And when I went to respond to him via the messaging system, I got a phone call on my phone right when I hit send. Took the phone call. Life goes on. It comes to the morning of. I reach out to reach out to Eric to find out what's the best number to get a hold of him on. And I noticed that my message never went through. I emailed Eric, said, look, I'm very sorry. Here's what happened. I thought it went through. Felt terrible because, again, here's another person that blocked off some time, and because of me, it didn't happen. Eric said, hey, look, don't worry about it. Things happen. We'll just reschedule it another time, and we're going to work that out. So remember, these are all highly successful people, and their time is as valuable to them as anything else. If there's been a big challenge for me in this podcast, it's been the scheduling. and to make mistakes like this sends anxiety to the next level, to DEFCON 5 level for me in doing this. So even though, again, has been a very successful podcast, I'm very grateful to all the guests and all the listeners. But even after doing it and having some experience, that there is a lot of anxiety behind it, for at least for me. I'm sure there's going to be more failures, but as I've learned and the guests have taught me, that's life. Shit happens. And the faster you accept that, if you're going to do something and move on, the faster you'll get to where you want to go. So do the best you can, learn from your mistakes, and keep pushing forward. Another question I get asked quite a bit is about the guest list. And probably the biggest question is, how are you able to get the great guests you have had on? And I've been very, very fortunate to have some very big names in the golf industry and the business, as well as in other various avenues of life. And the simple answer is I asked them. And what I have learned over the years is highly successful people are very busy. And as I said before, time is a highly valuable resource to them. But when someone has reached a certain level that I have found, they are often very willing to give back and help others. Again, going back to Mike Harmon, who was my first guest, he started the mentoring program at Secession Golf Club, where they would find a local youth, a local kid, boy or girl, and they would provide them the opportunity to play and practice at Secession Golf Club. And in return, the kid would help out, whether it was picking the range, taking out the trash, sweeping the bag storage room, whatever it was. It allowed that young individual to have a place to practice, to grow the game, to be introduced to it, to be introduced to individuals who are successful enough to join a private club like that, to help them maybe later on in their playing career or in their business career, whatever avenue they decide to take. Randy Soma, who is the CEO of a Fortune 50 company, he and his wife, Georgia, have given numerous scholarships to his alma mater, Robert Morris University, and many others have other things that they do. And you may even refer to this as paying it forward. I offer another platform for these people to give back and educate others on their successes and their failures and the things that each of them have learned along the way, so that others, such as you, may use that information to take whatever you want to the next level. It also takes time. The most difficult part, as I mentioned, of this podcasting, at least for me, has been the scheduling. Everyone tells you to be consistent with show releases when you're doing a podcast or posting on social media. But when you can't get people scheduled in a way that allows for that, it presents a challenge, and one that I'm currently working to overcome. I've got some great advice from some people who have built some massive platforms before, and I'm very thankful and grateful that they have helped me. So I'm working on getting those done so that you, the listener, can know that, hey, every Monday you can expect a new show, or every second Friday, or whatever it's going to be. I'm working on getting everything much, much more consistent, kind of like the old sitcoms and TV shows back in the day when you used to be able to tune in on Friday night at 9 o'clock to watch your favorite. When I reach out to potential guests, I always tell them that whether they come on in a day, a week, or a month, a year, whatever, that's fine. Whatever fits their schedule, I'm more than happy to oblige. But also that the most important thing to me and to people who listen, to subscribers, meaning you, is that the guests come on and they tell their story. They share their experiences, their expertise. And many of them have achieved a certain level of success and are more than willing to help others, especially if they have a passion for golf, which almost all the guests do. If I use Martin Chuck as an example again, on his episode, he said that if anyone has an idea or a design for a training aid, that he's happy to review or discuss it with them. All they have to do is reach out to him, and he would provide some helpful feedback, advisement, because he has gone through that process so many times with all of his training aids, so long as it doesn't conflict with something that he's presently working on. So it's just a great thing for anybody that's a fidgeter, that has an idea for something, to have access to somebody like Martin, who is so well-versed and experienced in creating successful products, that says, hey, look, all your listeners have to do is send me an email, get on the website, send me a message, what have you, and I'll be happy to help. I mean, that's invaluable to anybody, and I just love him for doing that, and that's the type of guest that we look to have on the show. As human beings, we have a tendency to view people who have achieved something similar to what we want to as being on a pedestal. And we forget that they were once in our shoes and they had to start at the beginning too. So that's just another reason that they all love to give back. Okay, moving on. Why such long episodes? So long form is one of the things that when I started that I really wanted to make sure that I did. And that's for a number of different reasons. So as I mentioned, and as many of you know, all the guests obviously are experts in what they do and have been for a very long time. And I felt it wouldn't be right to ask someone with that amount of expertise, know-how, brain power, whatever you want to call it, to come on the show and try to cram decades or a lifetime of learning into 30 or 45 minutes or less. I never wanted any of my guests to feel rushed. And it also allows for the discussion to drift off on tangents, which many times it does. When you're pressed for time and you're watching a clock constantly, that doesn't happen. It also allows the guest to be more comfortable, and listeners pick up on that. For some coming on the podcast, it can be a little bit nerve-wracking if they haven't gotten in front of a camera or a microphone before. And the longer form, as they get into it and they realize, look, there's really nothing to be nervous about, allows them to become more comfortable, and that becomes better for everybody. The conversation goes much better. Their storytelling becomes much better. It's better for me as someone who's pushing this out. It's better for you as a listener. It just makes for a better overall podcast. The other reason, as a listener of other podcasts like the Tim Ferriss Show, the Joe Rogan Experience, and many others, I enjoyed them for many of the same reasons mentioned above or earlier in this episode, but I also because it allowed me to hear more of the details on that particular topic or that guest. Some of the shows I listen to on other podcasts are short, and I often felt that I had many questions in my own head that I thought that a long-form discussion might have answered. Now, don't get me wrong. Many short podcasts are exceptionally good and very well done. For example, Golf Science Lab and Cordy Walker, he does an amazing job, and almost all of his are under 30 minutes, and I'm a huge fan of his. In fact, he's going to be coming on next week. But it just wasn't the way that I wanted my podcast to be. So yes, you might get exhausted after a 2+ hour marathon of listening to one of my shows. But chances are you also took a lot of information from it and learned a lot more about the person that I had on. Some say, I can never listen to your shows all at once and have to listen on multiple occasions, but that's perfectly fine. Not many people have the time to listen that long in one sitting, and that's fine too. Listen to some of it or as much of it as you can, turn it off, go back to it, work or whatever it is you're doing, and then when you have time again, just press play from where you left it off. Come back to it later, listen to the rest, repeat this whole process until you're able to finish it. If an episode is a marathon session, listen to it on your drive home or to work over the course of a few days. If you work out 30 or 60 minutes a day, put in the earbuds, listen to it while you're working out. I've taken many a news fast, especially in today's tumultuous political climate, and have replaced it with listening to other podcasts. It gives me a much better feeling of learning something that's, especially when it's positive, when I listen to a podcast instead of the polarization of most news networks. So give that a shot. Take a news fast for a week or a month and replace it with podcasts. Hopefully one of those is mine. But one of the many out there that are really, really good, and you'll learn a lot and your game will improve. So that's my spiel, at least for the first year of doing the Golf 360 podcast. I'm very, very thankful to all of you who have subscribed and all of you who have listened, and hope that I've been able to provide you with some information that helps you in your game and life. As I say at the end of every episode, I've learned a lot. I've failed. I've had success. But looking back, have really enjoyed the ride and can't wait for the next year to see what it has in store. There are some phenomenal guests lined up. Others that have said they'd love to come on. I'm not going to ruin the surprise of who they are by telling you right now, but will in the near future. Like past guests, some are household names in the golfing world. Some are not as well known, but all of them just the same as past, are amazing at what they do. And more importantly, they're wonderful people. So the learning and growth never end. And hopefully, if you're a listener, I've been able to provide you with another avenue of learning. If you know someone that may also benefit from listening to the show, please forward this to them. Ask them to subscribe too. We're found on all major podcast apps, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, Stitcher, as well as YouTube. It's currently under the Golf Paradigm, which is our academy. We'll soon have a channel dedicated solely to the Golf 360. And don't forget to also check us out all of our episodes on the website, either at golf360.blog, soon to be golf360podcast.com, or thegolfparadigm.com. And don't forget to hit us up on social media under Golf 360. As always, thank you for tuning in and listening to another edition of the Golf 360 podcast. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. If you enjoyed it, you can find more information on today's episode and other topics at golf360.blog. There you'll find the show notes and links related to this episode, as well as any other episode that we've done so far to date. If you're interested in improving your game and would like to learn more from yours truly by taking a private lesson, a half-day or multi-day school, club or putter fitting, you can reach me through the blog site or by email, pete@golf360.blog. So some of you may be asking, what is the Golf Paradigm? All you have to do is click on the homepage while on my blog site to discover how you can start playing better than you ever thought possible. Or you can simply sign up, again, on the blog page for my instructional videos where I give regular tips on all areas of the game to include the swing, club design and fitting, health, fitness and nutrition, the mental aspects, and equally as important, the integration of all those things together. I'm also on social media, and you can find me at The Golf Paradigm. That's Paradigm, and I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, also under the same name, The Golf Paradigm. Facebook is usually the best way to reach me for questions and or comments, and I look forward to hearing what all of you have to say. This podcast is brought to you in part by Old South Golf Links. A short ride across a bridge from Hilton Head Island is one of the area's finest golf courses and a hidden treasure. Set up on towering pines and ancient oaks with sweeping marsh vistas, truly makes Old South Golf Links a one-of-a-kind golfing experience. The Clyde Johnson design was named one of the top 10 new public courses when it opened, and it also takes full advantage of the natural beauty of the Low Country. Old South is a fun and unique challenge for golfers of every skill level and a favorite of both locals and visitors. Whether it's your first time here or you're a regular, you'll be treated and feel like family. From the bag drop to check-in at the fully stocked pro shop with both men's and women's apparel, to breakfast or lunch before or after your round, the staff is always ready and willing to help. Experience for yourself why Old South is one of the premier golf courses in the Hilton Head area and why it will quickly become a favorite of yours too. Visit them in person or online at www.oldsouthgolf.com, or to make it tee time, simply call the pro shop at 843-785-5353.